Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make chocolate peanut squares, and these are what they look like. As you can see, there's a top layer of chocolate, and then underneath, I would call it like it's a chocolate peanut butter Rice Krispie treat. So you have that really nice soft and chewy texture. So the first thing we're going to do is you need an 8-inch square, which is 20-centimeter pan. And what I like to do is either butter it, or you could spray it with one of these nonstick sprays. Or you could even just use a flavorless oil to grease your pan. And these are a no-bake square, so they're really easy to make and they're so tasty. So like a Rice Krispie treat, you need to melt some of the ingredients. So you will need a large saucepan. And some of the ingredients are quite sticky. So again, I either like to spray the inside of your saucepan either with like a non-stick spray, or you could use, again, a flavorless oil. And that way it helps prevent too much sticking. So the first thing you need is 2 tablespoons, 25 grams of butter. You can use either salted or unsalted here. And I've just cut it into small pieces so it will melt a little faster. And then, like I said, there's peanut butter. I'm using a smooth peanut butter because we are going to add some peanuts later. But of course, if you want lots of peanuts, you could use the crunchy. So you will need a 1/2 cup, which is 125 grams of a smooth peanut butter, whatever your favorite brand is. Most people have a favorite brand of peanut butter. And then you will need 1/3 cup, which is 35 grams of an unsweetened cocoa powder. Now you could use either just a regular unsweetened, or you could use a Dutch processed, either one, and just again use your favorite brand. And then to help with the soft chewiness of this square, we're going to add 1/3 cup of a honey. I like to use a mild flavored honey, whichever, again, your favorite type though. And 1/3 cup, which is 80 milliliters, or if you want to go by weight, that's 105 grams. Now, when you're measuring out honey, anything that's really sticky, honey, molasses, anything like that, what I like to do is just spray the inside of my measuring cup, or you could lightly oil it again with a nonstick spray. And that way, it just kind of flows right out. Otherwise, I don't know whether you've noticed it, these kind of sticky ingredients will stick to the inside of your measuring cup. And then you gotta really scrape it. And then I'm also adding 1/3 cup, again, 80 milliliters or 105 grams. I'm using agave. It's another type of sweetener. You could use, if you don't want to use that, and if you want to use agave, it's a nice sweetener. I really like it. You can usually find it, I've actually found it just in my regular grocery store in the health food section, or of course health food stores or specialty food stores. Now, if you don't want to use that, you could use a light corn syrup or a golden syrup or even a brown rice syrup. Because these sticky ingredients, they are used for sweetness, but they also are used to bind all the ingredients together and also to give us a nice soft and chewy texture of these squares. So now what I'm going to do is just put my heat about medium, and I just want to melt these ingredients together. So because you can see it's kind of a big mess here with the peanut butter. So I just want to melt everything down a little until it's nice and smooth. And stir constantly. Okay, so this is, I don't know whether you can see this because I have a black pot and I have a dark brown mixture here, so it kind of all blends together. But see, it's nice and soft now. And the butter is almost melted. So what I'm going to do at this point, as with like Rice Krispie treats, I need some miniature marshmallows. So I have 3 cups, which is 165 grams of mini. I'm using the mini because they melt a lot faster than the big ones. And I'm using store-bought, but if you just happen to have made some homemade marshmallows, by all means use those. But if you want to make this really quick and easy, you can just use the store-bought for this. So we're just going to melt, keep stirring this, and watch your heat. You don't want it to boil. And we're just going to melt all our marshmallows until our mixture is nice and creamy and smooth. Okay, as you can see here, marshmallows have now all melted. Gorgeous looking. So take it off the heat, and then I'm just going to add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, just for a little more flavoring. If you don't want the vanilla flavor, then just by all means leave that out. Stir it in. Now, if I was making these, since I'm doing a video, but if I was making them at home just for the family, what I would do at this point is just stir the rest of my ingredients right into the pot instead of, you know, so you only use 1 pot. But because I have a black pot and a black or dark brown mixture, what I'm going to do, so you can see what I'm doing, is what I've done is put 3 cups, which is 80 grams of a rice cereal, into a large bowl. And that's like a Rice Krispies is what I'm using. And then, of course, they're chocolate peanut squares, so we are going to add some peanuts. 1 cup, 135 grams. Now, whatever type of peanuts you want, salted, unsalted, you can use the roasted. They now have, I mean, there's just so many different types. So just put that in there. And then I'm just going to pour over my mixture. And because, like, I sprayed the inside of my pot, the mixture is really coming out very easily. Otherwise, it tends to stick. I guess if you had a non-stick pot, you could use that here. Okay. So, see what I'm doing? So now what we're going to do is just gently toss to coat everything with our chocolate mixture. As you can see, you can hear it. I don't know whether you can hear it at home, but the rice cereal is what gives these that really nice crunchy, crispy crunchy, kind of like a, I mean, these to me are like a candy bar, cross between, I mean, it's a Rice Krispie treat, but with all that peanut butter and cocoa, and more like a candy bar to me. Nice indulgent treat. Okay, let's make sure you get to the bottom. Okay, that looks good. So take your pan. You do have, and you, I don't know whether you can tell, but this is already setting up pretty good. Have all those, the honey, the agave, and then the melted marshmallows. When you're doing this, you also might want to spray your spatula to prevent the sticking, because if you ever made Rice Krispie treats, everything sticks. So now we got to spread this. You can just press down. I'm using a spatula, or like an offset spatula. You could use back of the spoon. You could even use your fingers for this. You might want to, I have some water. You can just get your fingers damp and then press down. Pretty good. Make sure you get in the corners. Just to even it out, because we are going to put a layer of melted chocolate over top. We are taking these over the top. Now you don't have to, you can just leave them to set like this. You don't actually need that top layer, but we're going to go all out here today. So there. What I'm going to do, you can just either let it set. I want it to set up, it's still a little hot, and I want it to set up and firm up. So you could leave this on the counter, you know, maybe 15 to half an hour. Or I'm going to speed up the process, I'm going to put this in the fridge, and then when we come back, I will show you how to do the melted chocolate layer. So now we're ready to make our chocolate topping, because I chilled this and now it's nice and firm. So I have a saucepan of simmering water, and in a heat-proof bowl, I actually prefer stainless steel. I have put 6 ounces, which is 170 grams, of your favorite, either a semi-sweet or a bittersweet chocolate. Kind of the rule of thumb, if you wouldn't eat it, like just on its own, then you probably don't want to bake with it, so just keep that in mind. And then I'm just putting in 1 tablespoon, about 13 grams of butter, and you can use either salted or unsalted here. And I just cut it into small pieces so it melts. And that just helps to smooth out that the chocolate and give it a nice, keep the nice shine. So just have it on your water simmering, and I'm just going to melt this. Okay, that looks good. Let's take it off the heat. Good stir, make sure it's all melted. And then we're just going to pour it over the top of our squares. Okay. And then you can just take the back of a spoon, or I'm just using an offset spatula to spread it out. I find this chocolate layer just kind of makes it a little more fancy looking, and plus it kind of tastes like a chocolate bar. And who doesn't like a chocolate bar? So just spread that out like so, as even as you can. And now what we want to do is put this in the refrigerator and let the chocolate set up. I don't want it to become like really hard before I cut the squares, because if it's too hard, then the chocolate will crack. It gets so brittle it'll crack. So I'm just going to let it set up a little, and I would say maybe about a half hour. Just will still be a little tacky, but like not like this. So, and when we come back, I will cut it into squares. So now we're ready to cut them into squares. It is still a little tacky if I touch it. It's not completely hard. That's the way you want it. And I found that was about a half hour in the fridge. So take a sharp knife, and of course you could cut these into whatever size you want. What I normally do is I cut the sharp knife straight down the center, like so. And then I usually have a paper towel and I just wipe off my knife. And then I'm going to do 6 rows. So each half I'm going to do 2 more rows like this. Okay, and then turn the pan. Now you could do it in 6 rows and have very small ones. What I'm going to do, because I don't want it too small, I'm going to cut it down the center. Wipe that off, and then just cut this in half, like so. So now I'm going to put this back in the fridge. Actually, I really like to chill these overnight before I serve them, because I find, I mean, you could serve them the same day as you make them, but what I find with a lot of things chocolate, the first day the chocolate flavor is really quite sharp, and each of the flavors is very distinct. You got the peanut butter and the chocolate. Whereas if you let them sit overnight in the fridge, the flavors tend to blend together and soften, and I think it's a much better tasting square. But you might want to try it either way and see what you like at home, because that's what matters, is how you like them. So I'm going to, I made these yesterday, so that's what I'm going to try. That's a really great tasting square. Like I said, the flavors now have kind of really blended together. You get the nice chocolate on top, and they are soft and chewy from all the, you know, the agave and the honey and the marshmallow. And then, of course, you got the crunch of the peanuts and the cereal. A great tasting bar. Try them. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of JoyBaking.com.